Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome if you are new. Subscribe if you like our content. So as you all know, there has been big pushes in the Release the Snyder Cut movement the past couple of days. That was my most recent video before this one as well, if you weren't aware of what was going on. Since then, there have been some more pictures released from Joe Manganiello, or Manganiello, however you say his name. He shared some Deathstroke images on his Instagram. He shared a lot. He shared 10, which is pretty awesome. They're beautiful pictures. One includes Zack Snyder as well, so he's jumped in on it. And of course, the support just continues. But what I want to talk about today is Henry Cavill's Men's Health article. I'm not going to go into detail about the entire article. It is pretty long. I read the whole thing before making this video. But even before I read the article, there were little snippets floating around social media of comments he made about Superman. Pretty much any kind of interview he does, or any feature he does in a magazine, there's always going to be talk of Superman, of course. Especially after Justice League, but I think his comments were comforting and reassuring, especially since he didn't really chime in on the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut. But like I said in my last video, there could be reasons for that we're not aware of. But I just want to kind of highlight what he mentioned in the article about Superman. So the article mentions that he is pretty cautious when discussing like Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League. But when talking about Man of Steel, he says a great starting point. If I were to go back, I don't think I'd change anything. Batman v Superman, very much a Batman movie, and I think that Realm of Darkness is great for a Batman movie. Justice League, it didn't work. So that's his take on those three movies that he's appeared in the DCEU. Pretty blunt about Justice League. He didn't really sugarcoat anything, and at the same time he didn't really go into much detail, but it still gives you a sense of how he feels about it. So it also mentions that he was going to do the Superman cameo in Shazam, but he couldn't because of the Witcher, his schedule with the Witcher, and also because of the Mission Impossible Fallout schedule. So that's why we had a double in for him in this Shazam movie, in that cameo. But when there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not he's still going to be Superman, if he's done with the role, if Warner Brothers is letting him go. But this is what he had to say about it. He said, "I'm not just going to sit quietly in the dark as all this stuff is going on. I've not given up on the role. There's a lot I have to give for Superman yet, a lot of storytelling to do, a lot of real, true depths to the honesty of the character I want to get into. I want to reflect the comic books. That's important to me. There's a lot of justice to be done for Superman. The status is you'll see." So he had quite a bit to say. I mean, it's not a super long comment, but there's a lot in what he had to say. Obviously, he still loves the character. At the time, part of this article takes place in a comic book store in LA, of him buying comics to read on his flight, but I never really had the sense that he was done with the character. When those rumors come out, it's unsettling, but I mean, unless and until there's an official statement from either him or Warner Brothers, I'm not going to just assume that he's done with the role, only because he hasn't gotten another Superman movie. I don't think that he's just willing to throw it by the wayside and let it go, because this role has been very important to him. It was a pivotal moment in his career. He's always expressed his gratitude to Zack Snyder and his love for the character. So I don't think that, like he said, I don't think he's willing to just give up on the character, and he still feels like there's a lot he wants to do with Superman. And he said there's a lot of justice to be done for Superman. And obviously tying that in with what he said about Justice League, that it didn't work. I mean, you know, that obviously, I mean, I'm sure he feels the way most of us do about what they did to his character, what they did to Superman in Justice League. And it's just really, like, it's sad and it's upsetting. But, you know, for him, this role that meant so much to him, that, you know, catapulted his career and was such an important role and character for him, Warner Brothers just, like, destroyed it in Justice League, you know, and at a time when it should have been really special and, like, just awe-inspiring to see him come back in Justice League. So a lot of people were upset that he didn't share anything related to release the Snyder Cut the past couple of days on Instagram. He doesn't have Twitter, so he shares things on Instagram. He didn't include it in a caption or anything. So a lot of people were upset, like, oh my god, he doesn't support it, and he's just keeping quiet, blah, blah, blah. But I think that even though, obviously, this interview was done a while back, it's not just like yesterday and then the article comes out today. So obviously it shows how he feels about it, and I'm sure he's plenty aware of hashtag release the Snyder Cut since long ago. I'm sure he's been aware of it since the beginning. And so this article, he didn't really shy away from saying how he feels about it. In some past articles, he's been somewhat, like this article said, he's pretty cautious when talking about these movies. But he said, I'm not just going to sit in the dark while this goes on. Like, he wants to express how he feels about it, and that he's not willing to give up this role anytime soon. So I hope that that resonates with Warner Brothers. I hope that what has been going on the past couple of days and the past week, really the past 2 years, but in such magnitude the past couple of days, I hope that something like that makes an impression on Warner Brothers, to see how much it really does mean to people. And the cast, like, the cast is saying, like, we don't like what you guys did to our movie that we worked hard on, you know, the crew and all these people. So I really do think that his comments are pretty reassuring and comforting as far as how he feels about still playing Superman. Of course, the article goes on to talk about, you know, his role in The Witcher and things like that, but I really wanted to focus on what he had to say about Superman, since all of this is going on recently with the release of the Snyder Cut thing. And earlier there was an image of what looked to be like a screenshot of a comment that he posted on Instagram of saying, oh, by the way, hashtag release the Snyder Cut before I forget, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's fake. So if you do happen to see it, I don't think it's necessarily real, because I couldn't find it anywhere on his Instagram. And I don't know. I don't think it's real, but I could be wrong. But at this point, I have been told that it is probably fake. But also, Zack Snyder has shared another image, this time of Gal Gadot in the studio doing ADR, like voiceover stuff for Justice League. And it says, Zack mentioned, remember that time, or back in January 2017, when Diana meets UXAS for the first time, which is another name that DARKSEID has gone by, in his younger self, which is who we were supposed to see in Justice League, in the history battle scene, when we see Zeus and all the gods and the Amazons and everyone coming together to fight against this apocalyptic invasion. It was supposed to be DARKSEID or UXAS instead of Steppenwolf that they were fighting, which they changed, of course. So it's pretty interesting that he shared this. It's always interesting when he shares something. I think people are like surprised and not surprised at the same time every time he shares something. But it's just always cool to see. And he knows that he has a great deal of support behind him. and that he knows that people want to see it and he wants to share it with them. So there's another image we have there. Of course, UXAS is CGI, which is obviously he's not going to be a real person. So it's a CGI image, an incomplete one, I guess I should say. But still, you know, interesting to see from Zack, especially when Zack shares it himself. So that's what I wanted to talk about in today's video. Like I said, stuff has just been pouring out left and right from, you know, Zack Snyder and people jumping on board with release the Snyder Cut. So I can't, you know, I do see everything on Twitter and Instagram, but I can't just constantly put out videos for it. So I try to do the best I can in keeping up with what's going on and just highlighting things. But again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with people who are also interested in this kind of stuff going on, and check out the links in the description and the promo code if you're interested in some activewear, beautiful activewear apparel, men and women. And thanks guys for watching. We'll see you next time.